Okay,
Okay.
we got all the footage we need. We got all the footage. Welcome to today's Melanated discussion. As a part of the Melanated Professionals series, we will be talking with Stanlene to learn about her career, how she got there, and how you too can be a powerful professional like her. So thank you, Stanlene, for being here and taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it. You ready to get started?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Stanlene, actually, you're retired now, right?
Yes,
So
as
what,
of 2018, yes.
okay, so what was your job title?
Um, Actually, I had two job titles. The first one, when I first started in Boeing, it was manufacturing engineer, and that was for the 737 down in Renton, Washington. And then in 2002, I transferred up to Everett, Washington, which where I was a manufacturing manager or manufacturing engineer, and then for the 767. And then later, after I did some lean training, I moved over to customer engineering.
Okay, so in layman's terms, what do those titles mean? Like, what were you doing?
So as a manufacturing engineer, you would work directly with the mechanics, and you would do the manufacturing plans. So you would sit out by the airplane or near the airplane, and there's a specific section or maybe systems, like maybe the tubing. So the first time I started working for Boeing, I was doing the tubing for the 757, and also all the tubing that went into the wing, and also all the way back pedostatic. And then so you would kind of just go out, and if the mechanics had a problem, maybe it was not built per the manufacturing plan, then you would go out there and you would sit down with them and kind of just go over what was going on and then correct it. And then you had your own stamp, and you would just once you change the manufacturing plan, you sign it, then you stamp it, and then it makes its way, I guess, per FAA requirements. And then let's see, what else did I do? I did systems, like all the hydraulic systems. That was included in that. So that was manufacturing. Also, you're responsible for, say that a customer comes and wants to change their airplane, maybe a place for the galley or the lavatories, or they want it changed. We have to go through a whole process, like coordinate with change management, and then you pick the airplane that you want the change on, and then you just attend meetings so that you represent the factory.
Okay.
And then with customer engineering, I like that because it was challenging for me, and it's like at the beginning of the whole, before the airplane even gets built, you meet with customers, you see what the configuration they want, and then you just manage that configuration of their airplane all the way until rollout. And then you kind of actually see the end product from the beginning to the end.
Okay, cool. Stanlene, what is the
Mhm.
tubing part that you were talking about? What is that? Tubing. You said
Oh, it's like where all the hydraulic systems, like when the plane lands, if you see the wing, sometimes the wings kind of roll out and then they
right.
move up. Well, you need that hydraulic system to kind of make it kind of loop, I guess, through the whole thing, because you have alternators also that are right there
Mhm.
on the wing. So yeah, it's just all the tubing. I guess the hydraulic, and then for the fuel systems,
Okay.
those kind of things all needs to go through from the beginning and then all the way to the sides down into the wings.
Okay, cool. So Stanlene, how did you get into this career field? Like, have you always been in this career field? Did you go directly out of college, like in your 20s, or how did that work? Like, how did you get into the
Um,
career field?
so how I got into it was, I've always been kind of fascinated with airplanes. So I went to Northern Arizona University, and I earned my degree, and then got married and moved straight right away to Washington State. And it was at that time that Boeing, and Starbucks and some of those other ones are really big in that area. So it was kind of, I kept trying to apply. I would go to career fairs, different conferences. I think I went to like a ship conference to try to get into the job fair just to try to apply because I knew that I wanted to go to Boeing. But the only time, oh, see, I end up getting the job because I called back to my university, Northern Arizona University, and called the engineering department and let them know that I was interested in Boeing. Is there anyone at school that has a contact there? So they gave me a fax number, and I went ahead and faxed my resume there. And within a day, I got a call back, and then I got an interview and got hired right on the spot.
Nice.
So yeah, and so that was like a whole year out of college. So I had to kind of, wait a little bit, but I got right in. And the thing with Boeing was it was not, wasn't sure how I felt about manufacturing engineering because, I wasn't sure what, where I can go. But I think once you get your foot into the company, I mean, it's really kind of, you can find your way around. And that's how I got the second job, the customer engineering job. Was I was a manufacturing engineer working on a 767 structures group. And there was an opportunity where Boeing was getting more lean training. So I went into a 1-year internship to learn about lean. And at the end of that, I started doing workshops. And during one of the workshops, customer engineering was in there so that we can do like just a flow chart from the time the customer decides what they want all the way until rollout, all the customers that are involved to the end. And it was there that I kind of got a little view of what they did. So that really interests me. I started like getting excited and went over there and asked, is there any openings? So they said, actually, we do. So I interviewed for the job and I got it. And, I stayed there for 6 years and I loved it.
That's cool. When you say lean, are you referring to Lean Six Sigma?
Yes.
Explain what.
Boeing at that time, Boeing at that time wasn't really into the Six Sigma like I see a lot of companies are. Ours was more called, just like the Toyota productive system, ours was the BPS, Boeing productive system, and it was like brand new. So, I think they were kind of maybe just kind of learning all about it. We got to travel down to Southern California to kind of look at some of those plants to see what we can take from them and then bring it back. And so, we did that for a whole year. We did AIWs, accelerated improvement workshops. And that's what I love because going from the customer, we were working backwards from the end product and then, what your customer needs. So it was really interesting.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing you need a degree for this type of role or career field. Am I right? Or have you
Yes.
to some people who do not have degrees, but still do?
No, all the people that I worked with had degrees. And at Boeing, you can if you're a math major or if you had a math degree, you can get hired as an engineer. I have a physics degree, so I got hired as an engineer there. And and then at Boeing too, you have a lot of opportunities if you want further education. So that's where I earned my MBA was, while I was working, I earned that. And then there was a time in 2003 when I did get laid off. And at that time, I started taking project management classes. And then, so after that, I thought, well, my goal is to get a PMP, Project Managed Professional. So I finally accomplished that in 2018. 2018. So that to me was such a big accomplishment because, it's not just studying the book. It's like real hands-on experience that you have to bring to kind of pass the exam. So I tried it a couple of times and I had failed because I was more trying to apply the book, and that's not what they wanted. It was over here. They want the hands-on stuff.
Right. I studied that humongous book for the
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't taken the exam yet. I probably should have a long time ago because now I would have to like restudy everything.
Exactly. That's what how I ended up. What I ended up having to do was just kind of shut everything off and just, I did someone gave me some books, study books, and then I bought some more. And there was a woman by the name of Eileen down in Colorado Springs. She has this Facebook page that really, really helps you. And I think it was through her help of going over exam questions, and then she would tell you why you didn't, why, you know, what the correct answer was and why. So I was doing that maybe 8 hours a day for a whole month. And then finally, yeah, finally, luckily that last week my husband was out of town for a job. So I shut myself in. And then, you know, when he had me take one day off before the exam and said, let's just, you know, let's change things up and not do anything the day before. But it, you know, you normally you would think, no, I want to study till the last second. But he said, no, let's try it this way, because we were doing that the last 2 times and it didn't happen.
Right.
So sure enough, he set me up for a massage, a facial that last day. And yeah, I went in there and yeah, I was like, once I saw that thing that says you passed, yeah, I didn't care. I broke right down in that, you know, everyone's trying to do their test and I'm like crying over here because I was so thankful that I passed it. To me, that was such a big accomplishment. So when my certification, you know, my certification came, I did go, I went and found the frame, I put it in there. And my husband said, why don't you put it right here, like in the living room? Or I said, no, I'm going to put it behind the door. He said, but no one's going to see it. I said, nobody has to see it. That's for me. I said, so next time I ever face something that I feel that's impossible, I'm going to look at that, you know, diploma or whatever certification, and I'm going to know, you know, I felt like I couldn't accomplish it and I did. And I'm sure that, you know, I can do it again.
Yes, definitely. PMP is no joke.
No, it
Joke.
isn't. It's hard. Yes.
So, Stanley, if someone was looking for any of the roles that you explained earlier that you've done at Boeing, what type of job should they be looking for? What are some key words that you will see on like a job posting so they know that they're applying for the right thing?
If you want to work in the factory, I think a lot of them is either manufacturing engineer or industrial engineer, because you see we had to work with the IEs out there, or even those A and P mechanics. So if you get training with that, you know, that they're all in the factory. A lot of, and then there are some design engineers that are out there. And then there's also, if you want to work with a portion of the area where people are doing changes as far as changes to the airplane, then that's change management. Or you want to go out and buy parts, or even like work with our suppliers, we have that there too. And then the one in customer engineering is this customer engineering, account techs or account managers. Those are the two that you would look for if you wanted to work in customer engineering.
Okay, cool. So, once on the job, what does a day in the life look like?
So at Boeing, with manufacturing engineers, or even they call them planners sometimes, we work with cubes. So you put, there's a system in there that you log into, and then it's kind of like a basket, I guess, electronic basket, because you just pick out what you need, and whether it be a mechanic might have had something happen with the plane the day before, then you would know, okay, so look on the, we call it radars, and it's where it's like the drawing system. So you look to see what the problem is. You actually go out to the factory to, if you're not in there already, to the plane to see where the problem is. And then you would either get together with your design engineers and then try to figure out a plan, and then get back to your desk and then make the changes. And then it'll route its way to whoever your next customer is going to be. And what else? Yeah, sometimes you just go out to the plane. There was one time where there was a problem with the plane where they said that there was a passenger actually sitting on the airplane, and they looked down and they could actually see the luggage and the cargo. So they said, you know, it, so I had to go back to see what job actually was supposed to be doing, putting a little filler in there. So I had to go out to the airplane to see what position that plane was, and it, you know, it somehow got missed. And then from there, we had to make sure that the remaining planes behind it did get that job accomplished. And then there's a place at Boeing too that has completed records, making sure that the planes after that, they all got signed off to say, yeah, that place, that was only a one-time mistake. And then they go back, and then the customer would have someone maybe go out there and fix that problem.
Okay.
So I liked it because every day it's different. It's a variety of stuff.
Right.
And
Stanley,
you get to know your mechanics too.
who are your customers that you're referring to?
My customers could be internal or external. So your internal customers could be like your mechanics, change management, your buyer, those people that you work with, the factory manager or the industrial managers. Anyone can be your customer out there. They just need to know, okay, so where are the MEs, the manufacturing engineers for this particular position? And I'm sure that they could probably look that up in their internal system. And external managers, I know external customers could be, the suppliers that make our seats, or the ones that supply us with the carpets, or even the actuators that are in the, in the wing. Those are all my customers. Or your customer could be, somebody that's kind of like not so much like, maybe I'm the 737 person for the tubing, and then my customer could be someone from a different plane.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stanley, what would you say was the thing you liked most about your job when you were there at Boeing, and what is some of the things that you liked the least, or that were the most challenging that come with a role that you were in?
So the best thing that I really enjoyed was just being around the airplane. There's you look at an airplane, or even now when I'm getting on as a passenger, I look and I think, oh, okay, so here's the door, and there's always like on a Boeing plane, I see the sticker up here, the placard. I know what that placard is because I used to do that for the 777 airplane, or even the 767 airplane. So I'm so familiar now with the airplane, and that's what I love. Or like even I didn't know, like the bigger airplanes, the 777, I didn't know that they have a place above the passengers where the crew sleep. And I've never seen that. I didn't know where the door was. And one of the other engineers said, hey, come on, let's go walk over there and I'll show you. So we went up there, and I just thought that was the neatest thing, because we don't see it as passengers on a plane.
Right, that's super cool.
It is. It is. Or even like the bigger planes are broken down into different sections. Like the first part is section 41, and then 42, I think. But my particular one, when I was instructors, was section 46, which is kind of in the middle of the airplane. So there I kind of learned more about how the structure is, how thin the skin of an airplane is. It's just so small and are so thin. And then also, underneath all the bars that go across, or even I didn't know at the time that we have, when the lightning comes, and then it doesn't hurt the airplane, when we're in flight, or and then it strikes, because there's a ground in there. So those are some of the things that I got to learn while I was working instructors.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stanley, would you say that there are growth opportunities within like a mechanical engineering type of role, or would you
Yeah.
say after a certain amount of time, someone will want to pivot to a different type of engineering role?
I think there's a lot of growth. The growth is more like, I think, going on to upper management, like maybe becoming a first line manager, and then moving up to a second level management. So yeah, there is some growth. And then also, if you want to try a different place at Boeing, there's opportunities for that too.
Right, like you mentioned earlier. So once you basically get your foot in the door, then it's kind of open
Mm-hmm.
space and a bunch of other roles that you probably
Yeah.
haven't thought about.
Yes. Yeah. And one thing I guess didn't answer was some of the things that I didn't like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything that I disliked about it because I think if you make the job kind of fun, you know what I mean? Like not so just, focus all the time, but sometimes just be able to, work and then joke around sometimes. Other than that, I can't, I mean, that was, nice, but I cannot think of anything that I did dislike about my job.
What would you say was the most challenging thing then about your job?
Um, I think it's so much, not so much my job, but I think living on the other side over like in Silverdale area and then coming all the way to Renton for 6 years, that was challenging for me because it wears you down and you get to work and you're kind of already tired, and then at the end of the day, you got that 2-hour commute again. So I don't think there was a lot of challenges as far as like your work, maybe say that Boeing comes in with a new system. We had this, I think it was around 2000 that we came in with the PDM, and everyone through the whole company had to get trained. So I think sometimes it was challenging because the training would be a little bit longer than I had anticipated, and you have to I had to end up staying a little longer, which got me home later, and so those kind of things. Just learning maybe a new system,
I forgot
and
to
of course, there's always difficult people, that you work with.
yes.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yes.
I forgot to ask you earlier, Stanley, did you go to college like right out of high school and then get your degree in physics and then go to Boeing, or was it like a different route that you took?
Yeah, my route was different. In high school, right after high school, my boyfriend at the time joined the Army, and then we got married, and we already had a 1-year-old daughter, and then we went to Germany for a few years, came back when I was about 24, and then at that time we had 2 daughters and then one on the way, and he decided he wanted to leave the family. So it was at that time, 24 years old, that I had a newborn and then 2 older ones. One was, I think, 3, and the other one was probably about 5. I had to make a decision to, that I really did need to go to school so that I can provide them with a better life. So I'm from Winslow, Arizona, and the nearest college was Northern Arizona University. So it was the summer of '87 that I started with 3 little girls in tow and started my journey in college. And it was hard because at first I was starting to get overwhelmed because I would see all these young kids, and I would sometimes leave class. And one time my professor came out and followed me and said, you don't ever compare yourself to them because they have no kids, and they're, so you just try to focus on what you need to do and you'll do great. So, slowly it started getting a little bit easier. And then by the time I met my husband, I was just about finished, and he was in the Navy. And when he got back from Japan, then we got married and moved straight up to Washington with a 4-month-old and 3 little girls.
All right. I asked that because I wanted to other people to know who may watch this who are like maybe in the middle of like wanting to do a career change, not necessarily a teenager who's in college and with no responsibilities, to know that like you're able to do this if you really want to do this. Like you had 3 kids and you got through and you got a physics degree, like, so that's super inspirational for other people watching to know that yeah, they can do this even if they have some other things with them.
Yes.
Yeah, don't
and,
give.
and I think I was blessed too because I had my family. I mean, even though they could not help me financially, my mom would come and she would, watch the girls for me if I had exams, or during finals, they would take the girls back to Winslow and then be able to actually focus on, what I needed to do. I was also blessed with some of the younger guys, there was also a young lady by the name of Renee that she was a single mom too. So we would all do study, they would either come to my house, the guys would, or to Renee's house, and we would feed the guys. And I say guys because I think they were in their early 20s. So we would come and we'll do homework together, or the night before the exam, they would come, we would feed them, we would sit around, and then we would all, you know, do our homework, or they would try to get us ready for the exam the next day. So they would be pushing us, come on, you can do it, or, those kind of things.
And that's why I said you're a badass before this, because not a lot of people who can do that. Not
uh,
a lot of people give up in situations like that if
mm-hmm.
you didn't. Like, that's amazing that you got through all that with 3 kids, 4 kids by the time. Did you have your
I
degree
was
before
done.
Kayla was here?
I think I was, she was 4 months old when I graduated. So yeah, she was just a baby.
Well, you had to go through a pregnancy though too, while
Oh, yes,
all this
yes.
is going on. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
insane.
exactly. And even when my last semester, I had a upper division physics class, and Kayla was only a couple of weeks old, and so she was be coming to class with me. So she'd be laying on my lap or up here, and I'd be trying to keep up with everything. So yeah, I did have. I mean, I'm very spiritual. I mean, my spirit. I depend a lot on the Lord. And a lot on prayer. And I think, and I know that's what got me through, was just, sometimes, I would feel like I would only be hanging on by like a string, you know what I mean? Like by the end of the thread. And I'm just like, and then either someone would bless us with some food, or they would call and say, I got some food or some fruit for your kids, if I can come by. And it was always those kind of blessings, to keep me going, saying, hey, I'm looking out for you, and people from the church. Yeah, they were all just there for me. My mom, my dad, my sisters.
Amazing. So you hear
Hmm.
watching, no excuses. If you want to do it, you can do it. Stanlene, it's this stuff. It is doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes one of my sisters, she'll say, she started school and she says, Stan, it is so hard, it's this and that. And I'm like, you're talking to the wrong person, because, you know, it
Right.
can be done. It can be done.
If you want it.
But then they say, well, we need to make like a living too. I said, but there's scholarships for single parents, especially probably during this pandemic. You can get that loan, and then I'm sure that there'll be that forgiveness, the debt forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're a frontline worker, nurses, or anything, maybe in the science degree, with the science degree, you would be able to get that forgiveness.
Yes. There are
So
ways.
take advantage of it. Yes.
There are ways. You just have to be resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, Stanlene, I'm curious if you can give us an example of a time where you faced challenges at work, not because you weren't smart enough, so it had nothing to do with your intellect or your ability to do your job, and everything to do with being a woman, or also being a woman of color. And how did you navigate those type of situations?
Um, so I think with just being Native American, it's sometimes hard to, voice your opinion or anything. But I married Michael, my husband, and he's very outspoken, and so in a way, I kind of started to be a little more outspoken, because sometimes he'll maybe voice and say, well, you're saying this. So I have to stand up and say, no, this is what I meant. So I slowly started bringing that to work. And I know that one incident where, just to kind of give you how an example of how Boeing does their retention. It's like retention 3, retention 2, retention 1. So the ones that are up here, they're the ones that, probably the last ones to get laid off, because they get rid of the retention 3s. And then
Okay.
so the last ones are retention 1. So I've always been a retention 1 throughout my whole career at Boeing. And so when a person came up to me, a guy came up to me one time and said, you know, of course you're retention one, because first of all, you're minority and you're a woman. But I said, no, it's because I work my butt off. You know, I volunteer to do stuff when
Exactly.
they ask for volunteers. I'm more of an initiator than, you know, oh, can you do this? No, I got it already, you know. So I kind of disagree. I disagree with you totally that it's because I'm, you know, minority and I'm also a woman. So, and then there was another time, I mean, it wasn't so much about being a minority or a woman. It was just speaking out, which was, I had a lead, and I sent my stuff up to him to be approved, and he came back with, I said, did you approve my stuff? And he said, I did, but I had to make a lot of changes because they weren't correct. I said, well, what was not correct? And he said, well, you know, you're supposed to be doing it this way. I said, hang on. And I kind of surprised myself because I really went out there and I let him know. I said, you know, I think we're doing it all the way that somebody told us to do it, your other lead. And I think the problem is you need to get together with your other leads to make sure that you guys are like the same, because right now his process, the way he does his approving is different than yours. So I think you guys need to get your heads together and then kind of bring it to us to make sure that we do, you know, do it the way that both of you want, not two different people. So after that, I had to go outside and, you know, some fresh air, because I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that I kind of stood up, and even though my voice was quivery and shaking, you know, I just felt so good that I finally stood up and said, no, this is the way it should be done. So
Exactly.
after that, I did notice his attitude toward me changed a little bit, where if I did say something, he listened, where before it didn't seem like he was listening to me. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know. So
So,
it happened to be that the leads were misaligned, but he was trying to,
yes,
you were the one doing the wrong thing. And it's like, no, dude, like you guys need to get together and make sure that it's cohesive. You
exactly.
come down on me. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, Stanley, how long were you in your career at Boeing before you retired?
20 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
I got there in 2006, no, 2000, oh no, 1996, and then
Mm.
left about 2018.
Okay, yeah. Wow. So, what would you say is the earning potential as a mechanical engineer? Like coming in the door, how much can someone expect to be making? And then what do you feel like is like the average and the cap of a mechanical engineer?
I think I'm thinking that the entry level would probably be maybe, I don't know, 45,000. But I think potentially you could go a little more than 100,000. And there's always, especially with aviation, aerospace, you know, it goes your top and then it starts to, they lay off, and then it'll go up again and then it'll come down. So I think during when we're having a good year
Yeah.
or good years, then there's a lot of maybe overtime available. So I think um, I'm sure that they can cap more than like 120,000, 100,000, you
Okay.
know. So it's Boeing pays pretty good.
Yeah.
And I learned that when I moved to the East Coast and was trying to find a job, and
The
they did not pay their engineers very, you know, where if we were making maybe 90,000 in Washington State, I think in Virginia they were doing more like 60. So, you know, they don't pay very well on coast to coast, and that's what I found out.
the region is important. If you're going to be a mechanical
Yes.
engineer, make sure you're on the West Coast. Make sure you're in
Yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah, because and then even trying to get into like the shipbuilding, where there's a lot of opportunity on the East Coast, it's very hard to go from aerospace over to shipbuilding, you know, because I tried a few years and I finally just thought, well, it's not going to happen. So I just didn't do it, tried again.
Okay. That's a good earning potential in my
Hmm.
eyes. Anyways.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So, Stanley, what would you tell a younger you? Like, what is some information that you learned maybe in the last 10 years of working that you wish you knew in the beginning, so you would have been able to do better if you just had the information?
I think maybe going into management or trying to become a manager at Boeing, because I know I had a few chances to become a manager, but I really had to ask myself, like, I know that they have a lot of you would have to attend a lot of meetings, and then how am I going to mesh with different personalities, especially the difficult ones. The easier one, you all wish that you had easy employees, but sometimes you might have to deal with the difficult one. So I think that was kind of like, I wanted to be, maybe aim for to become a manager, but also a lot of that, I really did enjoy what I was doing. Just, you know what I mean? Just, I like what I was doing. And I know that going over to the management side, you're no longer hands-on, you're more just supervising people.
Right. You
So
give up some.
sometimes, yeah, I do have that regret that I should have went over, but at the same time, I was good at what I was doing. I enjoyed it, and that's why I stayed just non-management, but more salary. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So
Hmm.
last question for you, Stanley. What is a tip that you can give someone? So let's say a college student is watching this, or a woman who is ready to make a career change and do what you're doing. And they're like, I really like what Stanley's talking about. I want to do that. What are some things they can do so they can be killing it from day one? Like, walk in the door and you saw them and you're like, wow, like, okay, this person is really good. Like, okay, keep an eye on them, kind of thing. What would impress you? Someone coming in the door kind of net new. What should
I
they be?
think I think if you do enjoy something in aerospace, yeah, I would, before I would go and apply, I would kind of see, okay, so there are different places to go. Like you could go to systems, or you could go to structures, or if you want to be more working with customers, there's different places that you have that available, which is customer engineering or even supplier management. But if you want to kind of just be next to the airplane, which is what I really enjoyed, then I would kind of try to find something in the factory, like industrial engineering, design engineer, and or manufacturing engineer, or planners, like they call them. So yeah, I think, or to get out of Boeing, just this is another thing too. When I was going to college, I had an internship over at the Honeywell down in Phoenix. And Boeing is actually a customer of Honeywell, because Honeywell did a lot of their flight systems. And I worked there for probably 4 or 5 summers. And I enjoyed that company too, because as an intern, they do spoil you. They let me have like a car for the whole summer. They gave you a stipend. They gave you like a computer to take home and stuff. So that helped me kind of decide where I wanted to go, because if you kind of learn about some of the instruments in the where the flight controls are. And yeah, so I think as a college student, you kind of just, you do have such a variety of places that you can go. But if you want Boeing, I think you can, if you don't know what you want to do, just get in the company. And then as you get to learn the company, you kind of see, oh, okay, I really do like that area. And that's where I would like to go.
Okay. And what
I
are
hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And what are some skills you think that they should be exhibiting to the leadership that will make them be a person that is like basically almost like a force to be reckoned with within the workplace? What are some skills that the person should have coming in the door?
I think just even being an initiator of, if someone needs to get volunteered for something, maybe, yeah, I mean, always look for somewhere to grow, I guess, like to learn, and never stop learning. And what I end up doing too is just take a notebook and just this is how you do this, and then you would do that kind of helps with a lot of questions going back to that person. Or yeah, I would just keep a notebook and then just try to do your notes in there, and then just never stop learning when you go into the job, and kind of be a good listener. And yeah,
I agree.
and I think too, another good thing is just being personable, going out to the factory. And a good lesson for me was, I had this dear friend that she was a coworker at first, but became a really good friend. And her style was so different. And what she did was, she would go and she would actually talk about, oh, how's your family doing? What are you going to do this weekend? Where me, I would go in and say, I need this, this, and this from you. And so I saw them kind of push back on me, but with her, they were like giving her all this information. And I took that from her. And then I started changing the way I approach, people, and saying, oh, and then started having more of a conversation before you actually say, this is what I would like from you.
Right. Building rapport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. Awesome. Well, Stanley, you answered all of my questions. How do you feel about the talk? I felt like it went well.
It went good. Yes. I did look over some of the stuff before, and I was like, making sure that the day-to-day stuff, especially like I'm thinking about, oh, okay, I'm walking in and then I'm doing this. And first thing you go to is your queue system, where you can look at different things. And
Right. So, I think 3 good questions anyone should ask themselves before they move into a different career field or choosing their first career field is, what am I good at? What do people tell me I'm good at? And what's
Mhm.
my back? And I feel like if anybody can answer those 3 questions, then they can definitely jump into whatever
I think so.
to do. And
Yes.
Stanlene is a great example of someone who is a badass. Once again, I will say over and over and over. And if you really want to do it, you can do it for sure. And Stanlene is a prime example of that. So, Stanlene, thank you so much for getting on here with us and talking about your career at Boeing.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Stanlene.